week's that image from last week's Out Loud, the one of me as a clown, scared the hell out of me.
As in you had nightmares?
Kind of, yeah, because it looked right.
It looked like the wig and the red nose belonged.
Yeah, and that scares the hell out of me because I'm scared of clowns.
Do you feel this might be your calling?
I hope not.
As a clown?
I hope not. I'd have to get somebody else to apply my makeup because I couldn't do it.
Did look exactly how I'd imagined.
It did.
I'd be looking in the mirror. I'd get to the point of putting the nose on, and I'd recoil in terror.
Do you know why you're afraid of clowns?
No idea.
So there's nothing you can remember at all?
Nothing you may have repressed or...
All I know is that I'm afraid of clowns. I don't like... They're grotesque. They're scary.
But, well, in the interest of unnecessary 90s references that seem very obscure nowadays, I'm going to have to go back to Are You Afraid of the Dark, that Nickelodeon show I mentioned last week. That clown episode was the root of your fear. That was when and I can go get our mother to prove this to you. But
I don't think that's necessary.
that episode and the nightmares you had for weeks after, I can guarantee you that's where your fear came from.
What happened in this episode that was so nightmarish?
I can't remember what the clowns were actually killing or doing.
It's a Nickelodeon show. How scary can it possibly be?
I'll show you another time. We might somehow link this to the website as well. But I'll show you just the intro to it, which is just a 15-second music thing. It does not look like a show that should be on a children's station.
Was it anything like the old Goosebumps show? Or was it...
It was like Goosebumps, but creepier.
Okay.
I think it was on Nick at Night, like the late night Friday one, maybe.
The adults only Nickelodeon.
It wasn't the adults only one. It was like no, Nick and Night wasn't the right one. It was on like a horror.
All the hardcore nudity.
That's where Ickis and Oblina finally hooked up.
That's not quite what Nick at Night was, because I'm pretty sure Gilligan's Island was on at Nick at Night, and that wasn't
Really?
very adult in terms of.
It was something only adults would remember.
Why did they never get off that island?
They did, in the movie that was made like 20 years after the series ended.
Oh, did they? I thought there were several times where they, a boat or a plane or something came to the island and they were about to get off, and then for some reason they went back to the island, and then
It turned out they were on the island from Lost.
yeah, they were in limbo or whatever.
Yeah.
The ending. The ending that the Lost producers told everyone, no, they're not all dead. They're not all dead, and then
They're just on Gilligan's Island.
and then eight years later, it's
They're
like
not getting off.
yeah, 8 years later, it was like you were right. They were all dead. But going back to fears, your fear of clowns came from a television show.
Or, were you ever a character on a 1990s sitcom when you were a kid? Because that seems like a very cliche fear to have.
It's legitimate. I'm not just making it up for comic effect. It is legitimate. It is a legitimate fear. I am actually scared of clowns.
I'm afraid of spiders. That's another cliche fear.
For little girls, yes.
Sorry. No. I become a little girl at the sight of a spider, but it's not necessarily... I think that's where it all gets mixed up. It's not just for little girls. It just turns people into little girls.
Okay.
I can see the tiniest spider that obviously could not harm anyone because it couldn't possibly have fangs big enough to break skin, and I'll coil up into a corner screaming in a fit for Josh to come and kill it.
Yeah, he calls on me
Where does
to
that
come and
stem
save
from?
him from...
He may look smaller in stature, but that's the one time he's much tougher than I am.
But what do you do when you run into a spider that is dressed as a clown?
Well, then we both scream for Mum to come and rescue us.
Well, what if the spider also has something to do with Mum's fear?
Mum, like all mothers, is invincible and has no
Okay.
fears. I assume it's something to do with child rearing. Once we pop out the other end, they're no longer afraid or find anything
They stare
painful
death
ever again. Yes, they've stared the most painful thing ever down, and nothing else ever phases them.
I think the most painful thing ever is probably a conversation for another week.
yeah,
But
we can come back to it. It can be another tangent for another week.
I don't think it's really a conversation. One of us just says, getting kicked in the balls, roll credits.
Especially from our point of view, that's going to be the most painful thing ever.
Are we
And we'll never know
balls?
whether getting pregnant or having a child is more painful because we can't do both. Just like they can't do both.
I sure wish I could experience it, but I can't.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Trying to appear sensitive? Is that just some kind of weird dream you have?
Blakey, I'm pretty sure you've gone on record saying that you don't want any children because you don't want to have to care for anything.
But I wish I could understand the pain that women go through.
Your acting's always so wooden.
Yeah, you don't. I think Lanky's scared of
Yes,
babies.
shush, because people might notice how bad his acting is.
Maybe I'm not scared of babies. Maybe I'm more scared of women
All right.
Actually, that's
So,
and their wrath.
all right. So my fear is spiders. Josh's is clowns.
Lanky's
Lanky's
is
is women. And surely you're afraid of something.
I just love how Lanky's just going to let that slide.
Up until recently, I have always said that I was afraid of nothing. But that was, 50% macho bullshit and 50% I honestly couldn't think of anything. But I've done a bit of research on the internet and I've found something I'm afraid of.
I'm also afraid of the internet.
Yeah, the internet is a scary place.
It's unsettling. I wouldn't say I'm afraid of it, not even the deepest, darkest corners, which I have bookmarked.
Not even Tokyo Gore Police.
Or
I'm going to have to beat
Just
that
damn it, Adam.
I just like the idea of using our beep effect again.
I can say that without embarrassing myself that I am afraid of nothing. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm afraid of the absence of something. As in, do you guys ever play horror games like Dead Space or Silent Hill?
Yeah,
Like you hear a noise, you go to investigate, and there's nothing there.
yeah.
Ooh.
Or you're being chased by something. You think you're being chased by something. You can hear it coming, but it doesn't.
Is it the paranoid feeling of being watched?
By something that may not be there.
It's one of the most common things in horror movies too, is the big suspenseful build-up, and then an empty room with nothing in it. And then when you're not expecting it, bam!
No, but the thing is, you are expecting it. If it doesn't come, that's scarier than if something does come. Horror movies don't do that anymore.
If something does come, it startles you, but it's not scary.
Some of them still, like, nothing comes... Sometimes that whole sequence, nothing comes after it.
Maybe you're actually frightened of the cliche that's overused in horror movies.
Some cliches are pretty terrifying, but I'm not afraid of that cliche itself. I'm afraid of...
Oh God, I hope they don't walk down the hallway and there's nothing.
I hope there's not somebody standing in the corner not responding to me.
I'm afraid of them going into that room that they clearly shouldn't.
I'm afraid of there
And
something
finding
being
nothing.
behind the door.
Well, there's always something behind the door, but there's not something behind that door because that's what you're expecting.
He's behind you.
It's behind them once they've checked behind the door.
Oh, that's right.
Or it's in the mirror. or
Don't
something.
go into that room, he's all alone in there.
Don't look in the mirror.
For God's sakes, turn some lights on. That's the first thing I would do if I thought someone was in the house. Start turning lights on so I could see what the hell was going
But
on.
what do you do when all the lights go out?
That's when
Then
I
you
grab a
start screaming.
torch. Yeah. Well, in today's day and age, movies don't make sense because everyone has a mobile phone and it's impossible to cut the phone line to that.
Yes, but somehow there's some kind of supernatural force that kills your reception.
Yeah,
They set
Either
off an
that-
EMP out of
See, yeah,
Either that or you're on the Vodafone network.
that kind of makes sense in, in supernatural horror movies, but, your average slasher, like,
Michael Myers has an EMP bomb.
yeah, that doesn't even make
That's
sense.
why it's so long between movies, because he's having to acquire the EMP.
20 years of R&D.
So you're afraid of nothing in terms of
Exactly.
I have no fears.
I can look people in the eye and say, I am afraid of nothing. And as long as they don't ask too many questions, they're going to think I'm fearless.
I will, but only the astute listener will realise that you haven't said that you're fearless. You'll have admitted a fear.
Right, but I'm not saying that.
No.
He's afraid of something in that he's afraid of nothing.
Yeah. I thought you were going to be afraid of fear itself.
Nothing is terrifying.
Nothing is scarier than something. But nothing is scarier than nothing. Yes, that made sense.
Yeah, I follow
Yep,
you.
I'm with you. Lanky,
I'm
do you need some time?
He thinks so. You can see the gears.
You may have to repeat it for me.
It's alright, you can listen back when we put this up.
I'll think about it then.
Yeah.
Don't want to work too hard.
If you listen closely, you can hear his brain rattling around with his skull.
Who has the cartoon cow playing the violin in their brain?
No, I can
No one?
honestly say no. That's
No,
not
no.
what's in my.
You?
It sounds like a Looney Tunes thing.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We should drop an anvil on him. Maybe that's what he's afraid of.
I'll just shake it off.
You'll have a big bump on your head, though.
No, I won't. No two.
Oh,
I don't get bumps in
They
there.
drop the anvil, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
they get the really big bump, and it's there until the next...
Camera shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, or until they just push it back in.
Or if someone blows my face up, I'll just turn my mouth around.
That only works if you've got a beak. It wouldn't work with
I'm
a
sure it
mouth
works
because
if
the
you've got
mouth.
a mouth as well. What if
Yeah,
I
but
had
then
a,
see your cheeks would be all stretched. And,
What if I had a goatee around my mouth?
so the goatee is just.
The goatee's been blown around and it's got my mouth with it, and then I just. So where my goatee and my mouth was, there's just skin, and I.
That would be easy.
I think
to
that's a pretty.
illustrate.
I think that's a pretty terrifying image right there. Just not someone with the mouth sewn shut, but someone with no mouth.
It's terrifying. I don't think they'd last very long, though.
Someone with no mouth.
Yeah, how would they eat?
IV.
Yeah, just get them to chase you around for hours and hours. Eventually, they'll die of starvation. Easy.
Yeah, I reckon IV. They'd just.
And how fast can they run when they plug into an IV drip?